is my love of paper and collage. So if you have your supplies handy, let's just go over them. I am Deborah Goley, and I'm going to be walking you through this here today. And if there's anything that you feel like you just didn't get, you can replay it on YouTube. You can email me, and there's my website up here, deborahgoleyart.com, and my email is down here. So if there's slides that we went over that are familiar to you, and I can give you a shout back as to where I found things, and you can put it in the chat, like Rosie said. So, glue. I'm holding a bottle of glue. It could be school glue, it could be your glue all off of your workbench, but you're going to need some of that. I actually have a little container, like from the restaurant store, and you could have had your jalapenos in there last night. I washed it all out, and I actually take my glue and I put about half glue in there and half water and stir it up. So that's going to be my adhesive for the paper today. So I have that here. And then I have paintbrushes, of course. I have a variety of brushes. And I will tell you, you don't need your nice brushes for this project. So if you got the ones that are like really starting to, fan out, and you've got maybe one that's a little hardened on the end, these are perfect brushes for this project. I keep a variety handy for my collage painting classes, some that are horsehair and some that are the bristle brush, the hog hair. Specifically the bristle brush for when I'm using glue. It will hold it from just kind of dripping. I can get a lot more glue on there. Same with paint. These hold a lot more paint than your synthetic or horsehair. Okay, so you don't have to have nice brushes, and you don't have to have nice paint. What if all you have is some craft paint left over from touching up a piece of furniture, like the multi-purpose paint? What if you do have like a little bit left over from another project and you stuck it in a container? This project, you're just going to be putting the paint on as your backdrop. So that's what's nice about it. It doesn't have to be your good paints. And I put mine out on a nice foam plate just to stay organized, or you can keep them in those little containers and put the lid back on. This helps me hold it, since if I'm standing vertical, I can hold it easily. So that's what's nice about having it on the plate. Also, when I'm done, oh my gosh, or maybe I'm not done, maybe I'm gonna go have my lunch afterwards, I stick another plate on top like this, and I slide it into a gallon baggie and zip lock it tight, and it's still gonna be good for 2 weeks, even longer in my fridge. So that's just a hint about having it for your palette ready to go. Need some napkins. I have a blue cup, so I don't use that as my drinking water. It tells me this is where I'm going to be washing my brushes off. And of course, I have tons of paper. And we're going to go over that after we get the painting part done. I'm going to go over all the different types of paper that you could use in your collage. Now, the subject today. So I chose to do a northern Arizona, almost a Virginia. Isn't that crazy? I used to live in Northern Virginia. Northern Arizona scene with the tall birch and aspen trunks. The trees are really tall and slender, and I think it's a really good jumping off spot for us as we're collaging today. The background is going to be as green as you want it to be. If you want it to be a spring theme, which is what I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to put a lot of green on first. And then where these trunks are actually paper, they're not paint. So that's what's nice. All right, so let's get started with our backdrop. So I've got a couple of greens just sticking here already, and I'm probably going to add some blue too as well. And I'm going to just add that to the back of my background. Now I want to get it on pretty quick, not too thick. If you get it on too thick, one, it's not going to dry, and two, your papers won't lie as flat as you would like them to. Okay, so you can see I'm kind of going back and forth. I'm going to make this one a little more green and intense than my sample here. I think the sample that you all saw online had a lot more green in it, so I'm going to go for that. Thought I wanted you to see that if you're not really into green, you could do it a different way as well. I got a couple of blues here that I can use left over, whatever you have. And this is going to be my sky back here, or my rolling hills. You have to have the canvas painted, or at least that's the goal, so that when you're collaging on top of it, it already has that beautiful layer behind it, and you don't have to come back in and try to fill in the gaps if you didn't have a paper that was going to cover that whole spot, and then you end up with some white left, right? Let's put a little blue in there. Now, I chose Northern Virginia. See, I said Northern Virginia again. Northern Arizona, because I had just visited my daughter, and that was so nice to see all the tall trees, and everything's kind of blanketed with snow. But pretty soon, these aspen are going to be blooming, so the leaves are going to be coming forth, and I love how they shimmer. They have that beautiful bright green sprouting forth for springtime. And they rustle in the wind. It's just a really beautiful feeling. So we don't get to really see how much spring happens here in the lower desert, in the valley, except when our cacti bloom. But if you're in an environment where your deciduous trees start to change, you know it's spring. Okay, so I'm just putting a nice landscape sky. You could have done pink or sunset, whatever you have handy. That's what's nice about collage. It's like you're using whatever paint you have, whatever papers you have. Okay, so I've got kind of what I want. Maybe I'm going to put a little blue up here in the top, closer to the outer space, to the heavens way up here. Very abstract looking at this point. It's really just a layering of color. Okay, now as I work my way down, I'm going to use yellow as my background and a little bit of purpley brown as my background. So let's get out some yellow. A little yellow here. Yes, I'm double dipping. You can see green stuck in there. Oh, but that's going to look so spring-like. I love that I could just double dip into that. Didn't even clean my brush off at this point. You can hear my brush scratching the canvas. Because again, I'm using that very rough hog's hair brush. I'm making sure it's going on pretty thin. One, I want it to dry so I can start collaging, and two, I want to be able to lay the paper on in a flush condition. I don't want a whole lot of ridges and bumps in my work. Okay, I'm going to put a little more grassy knoll right there. And I'm going to switch to some purple and browns in just a second. This might be like a green meadow where the wildflowers are starting to pop up. Or maybe you'll find four-leaf clover. I'm not going to use too much white Just put a little white on there along the horizon because my trucks are going to be white. So I want to have that contrast. So I don't want to spend a lot of time using white right now in my paint. This is the backdrop and you're about to cover over the whole thing with paper. So no need to put white on there. I'm going to mix a little red with blue, and that makes purple. So we've got blue and red. And I'm just going to mix it right on the canvas. I don't need to spend any time making it on a plate. It's kind of fun to just paint right onto the canvas. This class is geared for anyone, beginners, advanced, any ages can do this, abilities can do this. Now if I want to make brown, I'm going to add a little yellow. I want it kind of deeper down here. This is the dirt after the snow is melted. But look how I've got more blue than red, so I can tell that it's making kind of a dark green. But I can add more red to it and it's going to get more brown. So it just depends on the percentages of your primary colors as to if you're making brown or dark green or more of a purple. Now there's going to be a little snow left in my picture, so I'm going to add a little white. It's kind of gray, isn't it? Let's put in a little bit of red. And then put a little more blue. I can make little patches of white too with my papers. Oh, there's my blue. I'm looking around for my blue. Okay, so there's my forest floor. Kind of looks kind of cold and frozen. Add a little more yellow to it. Oh yeah, like that. And that is my background. Easy peasy, right? So I'm going to just let this dry for a bit while I talk about paper. What paper do I use to apply to all of this? Crazy, crazy, crazy. I mean, if I picked up my iPad, which I'm thinking about doing, and showing you my craziness down here, you will get a good idea of what all I use. But I'm also going to hold my papers up first before I show you my mess. Okay, guess what I got in front of me? A map. You know how they give you maps every time you visit? This one happens to be from our Estrella Mountain Regional Park. Woohoo! So I can actually use this to make my tree trunks, strips of tree trunks. I can rip it and I can cut it to make my tree trunks. Nice piece of white paper. Be great to put it into my work. Also, I keep, what about these little paint chips? Oh my gosh, how many times have you repainted your house and you put the little paint chips up on the wall and voila, they make great little pieces of collage paper. So I just keep a little baggie of those. How about some note cards that you don't use anymore? Like these cute little Valentine cards. They're just perfect for getting even that doily, the antique look, where they have little bits of red with the white. So I have a little bag of those. And then how about the inside of envelopes? Who doesn't get the credit card junk mail and say, well, you know, you throw it right away? Well, inside of those credit card, I don't know why they think it's fancier to put foil paper in there, but they do. So I keep all the foil paper in this bag. Can you tell I got a theme going here? There's a bag for everything. What about like at Valentine's Day, which we just had not too long ago? You get all those cute little doilies and you have some left that you didn't use. That's my little Valentine bag. But it doesn't mean I'm going to use it for a Valentine project, but I might like to have that really cool cutout or pattern put into my work. You can even change the color of this. It doesn't have to stay pink. How about sheet music? I mean, that's always fun to use. This one you can tell is pretty thick. It came in a Christmas box. And so I'm thinking this might be a little too thick, but I can Xerox copy this. If that's an old word, I can copy this and I can actually make tree trunks out of it or just about anything that I want to have, words or white. How about newspaper? Now, this one happens to be from Tombstone. They give you these little newspapers. I know you're thinking she's keeping everything. Well, this is really cool because not only does it have old-timey words or just the whole nature of the look of the paper, I can still make tree trunks out of it, but I can also just cut out a word. Maybe I want the word to be embedded somewhere in the trunk, right? Like somebody carved their initials or their names into the tree trunk. So I like keeping it. Now, not every newspaper is conducive to collage, so you should test it first. This paper is actually pretty nice and thick, whereas the ones you get every week probably in your driveway, maybe not, they won't hold up too much when they get wet with the glue. Let's see, what else can you use? How about tissue paper? Tissue paper, like the kind you get in a birthday present. Most of the tissue paper that you get does not bleed, and you can test it first by putting some water on it and make sure it doesn't bleed everywhere unless you want it to bleed. So I keep a little box of tissue paper. How about crossword puzzles? You know, the answers in the back that you don't want to look at ahead of time. You rip them out, and these make great. I mean, those could be nice little flurries in my sky. Okay. Now, of course, there's magazines. You know, the magazines you get in the mail or you subscribe to, and you're done with them, and you don't want to keep them out. I'll just pull out ones that have mostly a green paper or something funny, like this happens to have texture. It's the eyeball of something, looks like a lizard or who knows what. But I like that there's enough color on that and pattern that I could probably use it. So I collect a few. I don't keep the whole magazine, that would be crazy, except if it's a National Geographic. So I will keep the National Geographics because the quality of the paper is so good. And the ink is archival ink, and you can't get this anywhere else, just so you know. So I'm always scarfing those up. Plus, what I do with it is I alter this paper that comes out of the National Geographic. This one has citrusol on it, and I can tell you all about that. Or if you want to join my next workshops that I'm having this month, every Wednesday, I actually alter the paper so it no longer looks like a tiger. It's got a solvent on it that's taking the ink out and creating this really cool texture. It is smelly. It's not for everybody. I'll just have a day when I go out and outside and I make a bunch of papers that I can cut up. And of course, your scrapbook paper, last but not least, right? You can cut up your scrapbook paper. It tends to be a little thick, but it will work. Now, what else can I tell you about? Oh, how about stamps? You probably all you have stamps off your envelopes. Those are really fun. And you can also you can scan your photographs, right, on your copy paper, and you can cut up those to be in your collage. This looks interesting too. This one happens to be like a door that was on some advertisement, but I'm keeping that because I don't know. I might want that for something someday. Who knows? You never know. You can also type in your computer words, right? And keep an envelope of words that you might want to use. Having said all that, I think my background is probably pretty dry, and I can go ahead and start showing you how to apply some paper. Okay, let's go back to that regional map. So because these are trees and they're very organic, I'm not going to spend a lot of time cutting them, right? Like I could get my scissors out and I could cut some straight lines across here, but why bother with that when I can just fold it in half and rip it? It's kind of satisfying to do that. So I'm just going to do like a 1-inch section here and rip the strip. So now I have one strip. How many trees do I have in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I usually work in odd numbers. So let's make 9 strips. Some of them I'm going to make skinnier strips than others. You could rip up newspaper, you could rip up copy paper, rip up whatever you have. If you don't have any white, something that's mostly white, don't worry about it because you can paint over the paper when you get it onto the canvas. I'm just ripping. I know I'm losing track of how many I've ripped. I'm not going to bother counting them at this point. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, so now I've got these nice long pieces that I can use. I love it too because look how the words are now going in the horizontal direction. That's kind of a design bonus. I didn't even plan that. That just really happened. So it looks like those little knots and the lines that are in the aspen and the tree. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste it onto my canvas like this. All right. So I know where my trees are going to go. Ooh, it's going to be so fun. Obviously, I'm going to start at the top, and this part I'm going to tear off because maybe I don't want it to go all the way to the bottom, or maybe I just want it to go to the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and just tear that. The nice thing about these gallery wrapped canvases, I can glue it underneath so that I don't really have to cut it off. And then after I'm done, I can paint the whole side black, or I can leave it. Okay, I already showed you how to mix the glue. We did that, right? So half and half water, half and half glue. I just squeezed half in there and put some water in there already. And then I'm going to stir it up. And I'm using a really old brush. Stir that up. Now it's going to go on milky white, and that's okay, right? Because you're going to be seeing how it's going to dry clear. Pretend it's like using decoupage. You can use decoupage, by the way. I just find it very smelly. It's really smelly. So I can go ahead and just apply it to the back of the paper, or if I know it's going to go right there, I'm just going to put it right on the canvas. I'm going to put the glue and be pretty liberal with it. Like put a lot of it on there, because you don't want to just have a little bit and then get air bubbles. We don't want any air bubbles. Okay, so I'm just going to stick that down right where I had it. And now I'm going to take my brush and go over the top of it. Now I know it's good and stuck. See how I said there was that little bit that's might hang off the end because you wanted it to go all the way to the bottom? Well, I'm just going to put some glue down there on the bottom and wrap it under. If you have nice nails, you're probably not going to love this project because you're going to get glue all over your nails. So just know that it's a messy project. Okay, wow, I already love that already. And my words are upside down. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be back painting, like putting shadow on there at the end after I have all my ground cover on. So it's so cool. Okay, I got another strip. All right, I'm ready to put that on. So I'm going to put on a lot of glue. Hope you're enjoying this. The next one I do will be like a flower. And you know what? You can use old canvases. Let's say I already had one that I started and I'm just not going to follow through with it. This could have been just a canvas that I'm doing nothing with, and now I'm going to collage over it. So don't throw away all your canvases. You can repurpose them. Okay, this one I'm going to kind of go at an angle a little bit because nature is not straight. There's nothing in nature straight. If you find something, let me know. And even if I don't go all the way to the top, like I got a little lip here, don't worry about that. That's what paint's for. I can paint where I have a part I want to fill in. That's why I call this painted collage, because paint is your friend. This is how I got started in my fire art. I'm a muralist and painter, and then I started adding paper to my work, all kinds of things. And then when fabric came along, I just switched to fabric. So. Okay, so I got 2 on there. Pretty good. Now I'm going to find this is a little guy. I could still use it. Let's say you ran out of this white. I mean, I can piece 2 pieces together to make one. In fact, let's just do that. Why not? Why not? So maybe I've got a big fat trunk back here. And I have another section. See, you can mix and match here. I have quite a few that just fell into the green paint. That's okay too. Paint is also an adhesive. So let's say your background is not dry, or you get paint on your strip, it's like glue. They put glue, they put a drying agent into acrylic paint. So just so you know. Oil paint, not so much. Okay, I'm just going to stick that on there. Oh, I kind of like that funky green that was on there. I'm going to tear that off. I think what's nice about collage is it doesn't have to be so planned and thought out, because you're kind of looking at your pile of your papers and then trying to figure out exactly what it is that you want by colorway. And speaking of that, I'm just going to take my iPad and show you all my piles of paint and paper. So my paints are over here. Got all my little paints right here. And then if I pan over here, you can see I have things by color. So I've got like a blue plate, I've got a yellow and gold and a green plate, so that I keep kind of organized. And then you see that I've got reds and oranges in the back there. And then I have words over here and my white strips. And these are just all my odds and ends that I might want to add. So that's how you want to kind of keep organized when you're doing this. And then when I'm done for the day, I stack all the plates. So I just stack up the yellow, the blue, the red, And that way I have them all ready to go for the next one. So I hope that helps when you see how to organize everything. Okay. All right, so I've got 3 on here. Let's try another one. When you're not using your brush, stick it in your water because you don't want the glue to dry out on your brush before you're done for the day. So I'm just going to put another one right here. And I've got a little green that was on my brush. That's okay. It's kind of staining the paper. I love that. I absolutely love that it gives already a nice stain effect. So your paper does not have to stay clean as you're working unless you want it to. Then you would definitely wash off your glue brush really well. Don't put it in dirty water. I'm going to put some more glue. Now, obviously, I usually work flat when I'm doing this and not up and down. I'm working up and down today just because it's easier for the camera. Someday I'll get one of those fancy swinging arms. Someday. Camera on a swivel. That's what I love. Okay, so there's Straya Parkway right there. That's so cool. That's in my picture. I didn't even plan that. I just went and looked for some white paper, and this was right on top. So I find that very serendipitous. Since I'm coming to you from Goodyear. Okay, I can do this 1,000 times and it's going to look different each time, just like when you do any art. No two are ever the same. This one says Parks and Recs. And because I'm short, I'm going to put a few more pieces on there. Just about. Put that one there. Maybe I'm going to tear off the bottom of that. Put some glue going down here. You see why now it didn't really matter about my background being too precise. I just don't want to have to go back later if I've got a gap here and try to fill that in. Okay. Okay, so let's say that's as many as I'm going to do. All right. Some are off the page, some are foreshortened just to give that perspective that things are in the back. So now what I want to do is figure out what I want to do for the ground cover. So do I want to have, rocks and sand or snow, grass coming up? I could even paint the grass coming up after I put on all the rocks and the dirt and everything. So I told you I had that really funky eyeball of some sort, but I love that it's got some pattern in this one. And I'm just going to rip it because nothing in nature is straight. And I know you're tearing up your... There's 2 ways to rip a paper. So you can rip it towards you and you're not going to get a white edge, or you rip it the other direction, you're going to get a white edge. I like both. I like if I want to have that white outline there, then that's great. So I'm just going to tear this into a couple of pieces so it no longer looks like an eyeball in there. And I'm going to put my glue on, like that, and put it between the two. Think about value, right? Like things that are closer to the horizon are going to be a lighter brown, and things that are closer to you are going to be bolder, most likely a little bit darker. So think about that as you're working. So the rules of art theory still apply. You're just using a different medium. Okay, if it's too short, yes, I could get my scissors out, but I'm just in a tearing mood today, and I don't even care if that rock is going over my tree trunk. And the reason I don't care is because I can when I shadow or I take my white, I can cover over that. So that to me is not a big deal. I don't get hung up on the little preciseness of things when I'm collaging. With fiber, it's a little different because you may not have it, your fabric is a little more pricey. And so you tend to not want to just waste a whole lot of it. But you can cut up old shirts and silk things you don't use anymore. It's better to use it in a piece of art than put it in the landfill, right? So that's what I say. Use it in your art. I think I had a piece of that citrus salt. Oh, it's inside of the National Geographic. So I think this makes a really nice ground cover for this project. So I'm going to use it. Again, I can tear it either direction. Since we're in the snow, there might be a little snow left on that. So put it right over that. Also, don't be flustered if the paper is a different thickness than the magazine paper or the envelope that you use. Even your seed packets have a different thickness. Or don't worry if the sheen is different. So this has got more of a matte finish than that magazine piece does. I'm not going to worry about that. The reason I'm not going to worry is because at the end, we're going to put a sealer over the whole thing, so it's going to knock the whole thing to one sheen. And when I say sheen, it can be glossy, matte, satin finish, just like your walls. When you paint your walls, you tell the paint store, what sheen you want, eggshell or satin or flat. Well, it's the same in your art supplies. So if I want to make this whole thing shiny, then I'm going to use a gloss. Oh, look, see, I'm going to overlap those two. That's going to be fun. Make sure you put enough glue. If you do get a bubble underneath, after everything is dry, I will take a pen, like a sewing needle pen, right? Pen. And I'll poke a hole and try to smooth it out with like a credit card, something that is also flat, just to release the bubble that's underneath there, and then put glue back over the top. If I get wrinkles in my paper, I don't care. It kind of adds to the whole effect. So if your paper's really thin and you get a little wrinkle as you go, just enjoy that extra bonus you got. This is so fun. Okay. I'm just going to wrap it around the edge there. So it's already coming to life. All these little pieces. You don't even have to use the whole paper. You could tear it into little spots. You can overlap your paper. that. So see, I'm not really seeing that blue anymore, just a hint of it, which makes like shadow for me. Like it's just part of the design. That's what's nice about it. Okay, now it looks to me like I need some really dark brown here in the foreground. So I'm going to go to my dark brown plate and find some dark brown. And believe it or not, even on the orange paper, there's some dark brown in here. So you can cross-contaminate, look in your other plates for the right colors. I think I want to be more bold here in the front, like a bold brown, more clear. If you know me, I love color. Oh, cute. There's a little bear in the picture. See, that's a design photo. If I don't like the bear, I can paint over him when I'm done. So all love is not lost if you're more into llamas than bears. There we go. Okay. Now what I want to do is go ahead and move to the middle ground. And so this is like a roadmap to me, right? Like I already know that it's going to be something in the yellow zone. So I'm going to go to my yellow plate and look for those colors that are analogous, that are similar. So your roadmap was your backdrop. So I got my little gold yellow plate here. Ooh, look at this really cool piece of tissue paper. That's really cool. I have no clue what that came out of, but I might have to put some of that in my foreground. I'll keep that out. Let's look at some of this yellow paper. If it's not quite the right color, that's okay. Like I said, because we got paint. So adding paint at the end is what we want to do. All right, so, oh, I love the words on this paper too. So this is some scrap of paper. I'm just gonna lay it down on there. There's some checker blocked paper here. That's kind of cute. That's kind of spring-like. Okay, so I kind of got a little row of, maybe these are a field of flowers. I don't know what it really is. I'm going to save this, I think, for those shimmering leaves. I kind of like that. And maybe one more gold. Something kind of a brighter yellow. Ta-da! How fun is that? Oh my gosh, too fun. They're slipping around. I mean, you could use your glue stick, but honestly, I think they won't stay in place. So I just go ahead and slap it on there. If for some reason you're like, I don't like what I just did there, you paint over it, or you can put a piece of other paper on top of it, right? Pretty cool. Okay, so now we're going to go up to here and add a little bit more green paper. How about some of that tissue paper I showed you? Let's take a little piece of that. Whatever you got handy. So tissue in there. It's going to really change my background a little bit. Because the tissue paper is transparent too. So it can actually change the background color, letting these colors shine through. You could put it on wrinkly. Oh, I can't wait to see what you guys create. Very fun. It's very satisfying to use up all this junk mail. At least for me it is, because I collect a lot of it. It's nice to just use it. Okay, and now I'm going to put a little blue up at the top. I don't have to cover the whole thing, right? I don't have to. Now this one has a lot of little red confetti because I'm going from summer into fall in this one. And then I have painted red dots because I just didn't want to do any more confetti on there. So I've got a couple of blue pieces of paper here. Just tear it up. Oh, it's got little Easter eggs in it. That's cute. So I got my roadmap. I kind of know, that this part up here is a blue, blue, green. So that helps me know what to put in this area. And then I'm going to move on and show you how I back paint everything. So hopefully you're watching till the end so that you get all the final steps in. If you miss something, of course, you can play it back. If you're just having too much fun playing with your paper right now. I know, you could sit here all afternoon playing. It's so fun. Especially if you get sidetracked reading, your Aunt Thelma's note card that you stashed into your paper supply. Or maybe you want to put her signature on your piece. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do right now that I've got some paper on here, I'm actually going to take my brown paint. A little brown paint. And a little bit of blue. Do we have any questions so far? Everybody doing well? Okay, so I'm mixing up a little bit of a darker brown because I'm going to make some tree limbs now. So I've got some blue and I've got some brown to make a darker brown. And I'm probably going to add a little red to it. I'm going to use a really skinny brush. A thin brush to do my tree limbs. You can make your own brown by using all the primary colors. I'm just using what I have. Add a little more red to it till I get a nice umber color that I want. A little more blue. I don't typically work with black at all just because it's opaque and I don't want to, have it so that it's too dark. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is make a couple of tree limbs that kind of like the arms that connect all of these aspens. So I'm going to start and make some little connector lines. And they're going to be random. You could make them holding hands, touching each other, come from the middle of the trunk, come from the side of the trunk, straight or in a line, however you want them to go. So if you took my flower drawing over the summer, then you could also collage over that. Especially if it's something you didn't really like it or you want to add more to it. That's what you can do to add more dimension. I think I'm even going to put in, I don't know, maybe there's a little road back here. I'm going to dot in some more rocks here where I didn't have any paper. I'm going to put some dirt at the edge of this tree. No, I don't want to cover over my teddy bear. I kind of like him down there. He's like my element of surprise. Yay! Okay, so then I'm going to have a couple little baby limbs coming off of my major tree limbs. They're just like little Y shapes that I'm creating. Okay, now I'm going to make up some purple to give my trees some more definition, some shadow. Okay, so I'm going to mix up the red with the blue to make purple. I like purple shadows. I'll put some blue in my red. Okay. Oh my gosh, this is going to be really a nice spring, St. Patrick's Day, whimsical. Okay, so I got to pick a side to my trees that I want it to be in shade. So you can see where my sun's coming from in this picture. All of my shadows are on the left side. So you pick a side. You decide where you want to put it. Okay, so I'm going to hit the same side as I did in the sample, and we'll just keep on going. All right, so put a little shadow. Your shadow line does not have to be continuous. It can be a broken line. It can be implied. Look how it went right over that yellow that was overlapping onto my tree trunk. That's great. That just broke the line and it actually cleaned up that spot where I had it overlapping. Same thing here. See if I put it right over that. If you twist your brush with your wrist, you'll be able to extend the paint that is on your Not putting it on real heavy, but that's really defining the trees now. Pretty cool, huh? You could even dry brush it on, right? Meaning, I'm not going to keep double dipping. I'm just going to brush it on there. And if some of the paper is showing through, it's not real solid. That's called dry brush. It's just the brush is dry. And I like that look too. Now they're really popping out because of the purple. Your shadow line. It's giving the tree 3 dimensions. So don't skip this part. And now they're starting to stand out. See that? Okay, I can use that same purple if I want to have some shadows at the base of the tree. So the shadows are pretty long when you have long, skinny trees. So don't be afraid to do that. Have a long angle shadow at the base of your tree. Oh, now it's going right over my teddy bear. So that just happens. This guy's way back here, so he's going to have a line. Okay. Okay, now I want to do all those the little time that I have left, I want to get all that fluttery new growth that's coming out on my trees. And I said I had a really cool, I think it was like a gold, or I've got some silver metallic paper that came out of one of those credit card envelopes. Now people are going to be sending me all their junk mail, right? Thought you could use this. I mean, even the gum wrappers are really useful. Okay, I kind of like the silver since I'm going with the green theme here. So this is where I could use my scissors because my hands are pretty gunky with glue. And I could cut a bunch of strips the same size. So that's what I'm doing. Oh, this is going to be so fun. Okay, so I cut that little sheet of silver into some strips, and now I'm going to get another plate out because I don't want to lose all my little leaves that I'm about to cut. So it's like making confetti. You could use a square punch. You could use your paper punch and make a bunch of little circles, but I'm going to do squares or rectangles. So I'm going to cut them. See what I'm doing? Making little slivers of how the light's catching the leaves. Okay, now I have a little plate of them that I can put on there. And I'm going to get some more glue. I ran out, so I'm putting a little more glue on the lid of the cup. And I'm going to put some water to it. It's easy peasy, right? And I'm going to stir that around with one of my yucky brushes. And now I have instant glue ready to use. I'm going to put that on the plate with the little pieces. Because believe it or not, I could just tap them into the glue and pick them up and put them onto the paper. Okay, or I can put the glue on and then stick the piece of paper where it needs to go. It's going to go on kind of milky, right? Because it's not dry. I'm not going to just use silver. I think I'm going to have a few green pieces as well for depth perception. But I think you get the idea of doing little pieces versus big pieces of paper. and how important variety, size, you know, whatever your composition is demanding from you, or similar shape. Maybe you want to be all rectangles, like I'm doing, mostly rectangle branches and rectangle little pieces of paper or polygons here. And last but not least, I'm going to do some painted green leaves. Let's put one piece right there. Okay, so now I'm going to get my green out. Green. I'm using a small flat brush for that. And I'm going to paint a bunch of rectangles for my green blooming tree, my birch tree or aspen tree. And I'm going to keep them kind of near the top of my tree, not down here at this area. So I've got the silvers in there, and then I have the little pieces. Wow. Okay, now I think I need another color in there. So I'm going to go back to my purple, put a few purple for shadow, maybe just 20% of those, not as many as those. I can cover over the Easter egg. Now I'm going to add white. I love white. I think it always ties things together. So I have my little cup of white. That's not my glue. If you paint what you thought was white with glue, then you're going to get nothing new but dried clear, or you thought you were going to have white. Okay, so I'm going to put some of those white rectangles in my picture. Now remember I told you I had some areas that are goofed, like there's a yellow piece of paper right here. Look, I can cover right over it with my white. I love that. So I can just cover right over areas that overlap, like right there. And yes, that's my dog in the background. Okay, look, I'm just touching all of those. I can take my finger and kind of drag it down the tree. This part, don't skip over this part, because this really is the part that can tie it all together. If you want to even put the white part down the side. So that's on the light side of the tree. Here's a place where I didn't even finish up the top. So I'm just going to paint that. Maybe you need to cover over a word that you don't want on there, you know, like a word that is not meaningful to you. This is where you can paint over it. That makes all the difference. Like I'm literally now, I have a light side in my tree and a dark side in my tree. And I was able to cover over any of the overlapping pieces of paper that were yellow on my tree trunk that are now white. Okay, or maybe I don't like the number 15 for some reason. I'll just paint it. Or maybe you want to circle it because you do like it. And these are naughty trees, right? They have things going on, so you can make little designs on there on the tree. Just like that. Pretty cool. All right, now I'm going to go back in the middle ground here and just play that up. You can see I've got a couple of lines in there like hills. So I want to make those hills come alive. And because this is my green theme, I think I'll stick to like a blue-green. Make kind of some hills back here behind. I'm really just going around my project now and just checking out what I need to add to it to make it all come together. You're the artist, so you get to change it up. And that just really highlights the background a little bit more, or maybe it even softens the edge of a paper. So if you have a really rough edge of a paper, just painting that edge of the paper will soften it up if you wanted to do that. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing down here in my rocks now. I'm going to spend some time down there. I'm going to find a color that's either analogous or, even an opposite, but I'm thinking a little orange down there might be kind of fun. So I'm going to wash my brush off, get off the green, stick it in here in the orange. So maybe the tops of some of my rocks have a little orange on them, glistening in the sun. And that's fun. It's just a whole different way of using your paints and what you have laying around the house. You just need a bottle of glue. Now I do have a bubble. This is dried and I see a bubble right here. So again, I don't have a pen with me, but if I had a pen, I would release the pressure right here. And you can even slice it with your scissors. So I could take my scissors here since I don't have my pen. I could score it, like I could take my scissors open like that and score it and release the bubble. Anything sharp will release the bubble because it just means that there's air and no glue under there. So now I can take my glue. I had glue on something and put it underneath that slice and now push it back down. So that's how I do a little air job like that. Let me get some bubbles. You might like having bubbles. I don't know. You might like that. Okay, so I want to put a little green grass in the foreground. I'm just going around adding my things. I'm going to need a little white to it too. This is new growth. Some new growth coming up around the rocks. Springtime somewhere. It's been a very cold winter. My Texas friends have been still digging out with busted pipes, no water. Okay, I am ready now to add a little white to my tree limbs. Maybe they're glistening too in the snow. Just a few of them, not all of them. And I'm going to put a little bit of white in the foreground. And then I'm going to sign my name. And I'm going to use my small speed brush and I had any red left, which I don't think I do. I used it to make purple. So I'm going to use the orange. Sign my name. Again, if you have any questions for me, please reach out to me. There is my name. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to coat the whole thing. So what am I going to coat it with? I'm going to coat it with a gloss medium because I think I want this one to be all glossy. I think that would be fun. So I'm probably going to use this, or I could use Mod Podge. Either one will work just fine. So just some, or you could use your glue. You could use your glue. You'll get more like a matte finish rather than a glossy finish. This one this one's matte, so I have one for matte. If I had mostly newspaper and I didn't want it to be glossy, I want everything to be the same sheen, I'll cover the whole thing with a matte finish. It's important that you finish off with a sealer. And I say that because not all paper is acid-free. So over time, this could fade and not be as vibrant and beautiful and last through the years. So most scrapbook paper, I think, is acid-free. It tells you on the paper whether it is, but we were using so many different things, and I don't want to be bothered with keeping track of what's acid-free. I want the variety. So that's why I seal everything. It keeps any little loose ends too that you may not have glued down. It keeps it all flat. So with that, I hope you enjoyed it. I will bring it forward just a bit so you can see it. I enjoy very much this technique. This is kind of what I love doing, and I can envision me doing this with scraps of fabric as well. So that's what I love. So if you enjoyed today, give me a shout out. These are my my tip links if you are so desired and you just wanted to thank me for my time and materials, or if you just need to reach out to me, and you can go to my website or send me an email, deborah@deborahfoley.com, and I can give you more information and where you can find another class.